Hey everyone, it's me. Just want to let you know that we actually recorded this video back in March, so if some of the comments seem a little outdated, or if it seems like we're talking about it like it's more far away than it actually is, then that's the reason why. Just wanted to make that clear before the video started, and I hope you enjoy. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I didn't think about what I was going to say after that. So, I am here with a couple of friends of mine. I have Petter.
Hello.
And I've got James.
How's it going?
The two of them are from the Umami Manga channel, where they read and talk about manga and sometimes anime.
Although,
manga.
really, largely, pretty much only manga.
Yeah, pretty much. I guess really the only anime stuff you've done is like talk about Attack on Titan. So.
Yeah. We
Because
on
you
the
spent-
Titan Tea Time podcast
yeah.
we do some.
So we are not here to talk about manga or anime. We're here to talk about video games because that's what we do on this channel.
Yeah.
And very specifically, it's March now, so about 2 months out from what's effectively the end of the 3DS and Wii U E-Shops. I know technically it's not going to end until next March or whatever, but come May, we're not going to be able to use debit or credit cards on it anymore, so that's pretty much going to be the end of it for most people. I guess any general thoughts?
Well, I mean, look, it sucks, right? It sucks having to lose that access. You would want Nintendo to keep those systems up, the eShop up for, I guess, indefinitely. You know what I mean? At the same time, I understand as a business model, it's not necessarily beneficial for them to keep it going. Granted, Nintendo is doing very well right now with the Switch and their current financial situation, so they could afford to keep it going for a bit longer. But at the end of the day, they're going to be losing money on keeping it going. So I understand why it's time to phase it out. But it still hurts, and there's not a great alternative to what the 3DS and Wii U eShop provide.
Yeah. And unfortunately, so many games, we're going to be talking about it later, but so many games are just so expensive or even impossible to get. This will be removing some games from legal ownership whatsoever.
You're right.
Yeah. That's really the main kick in the gut, kind of.
Honestly, I've thought about, what if Nintendo, after the May deadline or the August deadline where we can't use eShop cards anymore, just went through and made all of their first party games free, because at that point they have no chance to make money on those games anymore. I know they're not going to do it, but I feel like that would be the best way for them to save face.
Yeah, I mean that would be ideal for the fans, obviously, but
that would be wonderful. It's never going to do it.
Yeah, it's way too good to be true. Although I love the idea.
How far can they go before they're not losing face? They're not. This is not a detriment to, I guess, their name per se. And that's a very extreme way of putting it. But obviously, this is not a popular choice that they're making. However, they are doing things that are viewed as pretty positive right now. In general, obviously, there's some setbacks here and there.
There always
but
is.
in general, there always is. But in general, they're doing things that are highly favorable. So they can get away with cutting off access to these games to the fans and not take a great loss from it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, ultimately, I think it's fair, all things considered. These two consoles are becoming outdated with the Switch being, the new thing.
Right.
And, at some point, this would happen regardless. And I don't know. I don't think now is necessarily too early. If I'm being perfectly honest.
Well, I mean, the Switch has outlived the Wii U at this point.
Right.
And the Switch is on track to outlive every other console Nintendo's ever released.
Yeah. With well deserved.
At least the home console is not
well deserved. You're right.
Oh yeah, it's a great console.
Yeah. Because the 3DS came out in 2011 and the Wii U in 2012, right? So they've both been out for 10 years / almost 10 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's
has
about
been a long
time that this is not necessarily a surprising thing, but it sucks because there isn't a better option. Or it almost feels like we could go into the cycle where every new system, unless they keep the Switch model going, every new system will reinvent the wheel. We'll have a issue where they have to shut down this system, but we have to have this trickle down effect of games that we get on the new virtual console, the new Nintendo Switch Online, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
I hope it's never like that, and I hope they stick to Nintendo Switch Online. That's what they're saying. But I'm sure that in the past they've said we're going to be sticking to virtual console and eShop and whatnot.
Yeah.
You know, things change. I just don't want them to continue doing that, so we have to wait for an update so that we get the games that we've already had again. You know?
Absolutely.
I think-
Well, I mean, we're still gonna have the games downloaded to our old systems anyway, right?
You're right.
So as long as we
Yeah.
bought them when we could, we'll have them forever. You know, at least as
Yeah,
long
but
as
not-
the systems are alive.
Not everyone's had a chance to buy them, though. I mean, there's always going to be new gamers coming in. I was a poor
Yeah.
college student for most of this generation. So I never had a Wii U. I didn't buy a 3DS until like 2017. For me, I haven't had a lot of time to pick up all of that. And I'm sure it's also true of a lot of other people.
Fair. Although then again, that can be said for literally every system before. Like, you would have missed out on something. Like, I wasn't alive when the NES was active. You know, like I missed all of that, for example.
Right.
Yeah. And
Well,
that sucks.
That's the thing about gaming in general, or just the console environment and the media is it's different than, say, cinematography and video, where we don't really get like, oh, the new generation of watching videos is here. You don't really get that. Yes, you have VHS, DVD,
Yeah, I was about to say,
etc.
they kind of have
But
that
they
history.
but they eventually release those videos in that format. But people still have like VHSs. They still have Laserdisc. Like it's still possible to have a hold of those and play them on your previous systems if you want, or you can get like the brand new versions. Gaming is different, where that change happens a lot more frequently, and the backwards compatibility is just not there. I mean, yeah, you're not playing a VHS on a DVD player, but it's more likely for the videos to come into that new format than it is for video games to come into the new format.
True.
It's just so much simpler for for a
it is.
VHS tape to a DVD, for example. It's just carrying over data. Just
Right.
putting in the same data in a different way. To port a video game is a months long at fastest process.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That'll take an entire team of people.
Right. And so it's hard to use the same kind of argument for, oh, if video can do it, so can video games. I don't think it's quite the same. And I would love for everyone to get the chance to play all the video games that have ever been created, have that history.
Yeah.
It's just not feasible. And I also think that what comes with this whole argument right now, it almost feels like people want to say that they're entitled to play these games. Oh, I'm a consumer, so I should be able to play everything I want. And that's not. I don't think that's very healthy. It's clearly you don't have a human right to have the entertainment that you want per se, at the fingertips all the time.
Yeah.
That's up to the people who make those products to provide that, and we want them to do so. But on the flip side, I do think it's a shame that people who have either new to the hobby or just weren't really alive to play those older games don't get the chance to see what games used to be like, if these kind of services are not provided.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's especially worth talking about with these two consoles in particular. Because I just been thinking about it. It's like, how do you port a Wii U game? How are you going to put, say, Star Fox Zero on a different console that doesn't have the gamepad? How are you going to translate over so many of these things?
Right.
Or like the 3D effects from the 3DS. There are no other consoles that are using 3D in that way.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
I somehow doubt any more are going to come out. So this is arguably the most gimmicky Nintendo's ever gotten with a generation.
True, but plus, I mean, in a way, both the 3DS and the Wii U are two-screen consoles, kind of.
Yeah, and we don't see that anymore.
Yeah, right.
No.
At this point, that seems to be over. So, yeah, you're right.
Right.
There's a big issue there in terms of porting the games, or many of the games at least.
Yeah. And a lot of the ones that have been able to come over, your Mario games, your Mario Kart. Help me out here. I'm only thinking of Mario
Pokken Tournaments.
Pokken Tournament. Thank you.
Well, let's say oh man, how can we forget that, Jim? It's a good game, but not necessarily a system seller. I mean, were there a lot of system sellers on the Wii U? I digress. But let's take Pikmin 3. Pikmin 3 relied heavily on the gamepad, but when it got ported to the Switch, they were able to change it in a way that obviously you didn't need a second screen, and it worked. I thought that was actually my first time playing Pikmin 3. Well, fully. I had played it. A friend had it, and so I was able to experience it with the gamepad. And I prefer the Switch version. I think they did a lot of improvements as well, but they were able to transition how the game works from the Wii U to make it just work on a single screen fairly well. So yeah, it's doable. But again, there are some games, especially on the DS, 3DS systems, that are kind of hard to port over to a single screen because they relied on that kind of a novelty of the two screens.
Absolutely.
Yeah. One thing I keep hearing people talk about, a great example of this, is that puzzle that nobody will ever forget from Phantom Hourglass.
Oh,
where
yeah.
You have to close the DS.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
I played on a car ride. I was so frustrated. I had no idea what to do.
I think I was in the same place.
You shut it because you got to go, go to the bathroom, the gas station or something like that. You get back and it's solved. It's like, what? Like,
didn't you have a very
I should
similar
feel
story
excited about
chase?
this, but I
think
feel
I did.
frustrated.
I think I just closed it out of frustration. I had to come back later.
Yeah,
I come back.
I think 90%
of
of people are the same way.
Yeah, that's really funny. I was actually able to solve it for real because before that in the game there had been multiple instances of those kind of DS gimmicks happening. You had to like blow out the screen, or you had to various of those little things. So I was actually able to solve that, but I do understand.
I was actually able to solve it.
Actually adjust glasses.
You're at Petter, who had a brain as a child.
No, you're right. Like, you're right. It should have been intuitive. That's why it was so frustrating that you come back to it. It's like, anyway.
Yeah. No, but I
point is,
understand that.
you don't have some of those that ability, and obviously that just comes with game history, especially with Nintendo consoles and having their different novelty things.
Yeah. It's a lot easier to port a PSP game over to the PS4 or PS5 than it is to port a 3DS game to the Switch.
Yeah, I mean,
imagine in terms of design.
Imagine porting say Pokemon X and Y to a stationary console, for example. Obviously, they probably would never will, but imagine doing that.
No,
you'll never be able to evolve that Pokemon that needs you to flip the system upside down.
I'm sure they've come up with something else for.
Well,
they
to
will.
be fair, I think because that's the squid. I can't remember its name.
Yeah,
I'm so
it's
bad
like
with names.
Inkay?
This Inkay, yeah, I think that's exactly it.
Huh.
I'm pretty sure Inkay was in Sword and Shield, so they have figured out a way to do it. I don't
Okay.
remember what it was though.
I mean,
Gotcha.
admittedly, you can also turn your Switch upside down.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
fair.
it does have gyro.
That's
Yeah.
fair, actually.
But I don't think it was that though, because
Uh.
they realize it's also some people just play on the TV. Anyway,
Yeah.
but you are right. There are other features in X and Y that can't really be carried over to other systems as easily. But it's just the product of its time.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
And one other thing that is a product of these two consoles in particular that I want to talk about, and I think it's been on everybody's mind, we've talked about it a little bit already, is the Virtual Console. Just how many games are on these two systems that are absolutely nowhere else right now? I mean, personally, for me, as a fan of the classic Sonic, this has been my only chance to really get to play the Game Gear Sonic games. because they are absolutely nowhere else.
Then you
really?
gotta make sure you buy them before it's too late.
Yeah.
Are they? So they're not on. If it's Game Gear Sonic, yeah. So they're not on the Sega collection that's on.
I don't think they're on Sega
NSO?
Ages, no.
Or Sega Ages,
Oh,
but
no, that's Sega Genesis. Game Gear
only
was
Genesis.
Their,
That's right.
yeah, Game Gear was their handheld, their Game Boy competitor.
That's right. Gotcha. So and they haven't released
Admittedly,
those
those
games.
Sonic games are terrible. I would not suggest playing them unless you really love Sonic.
But that's
the
another
point
thing.
stands that I really love Sonic.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's part of history, and
exactly.
to not have access to that history, especially if it's a franchise you love, is
Or
sad. And
something that's probably more relevant to, I mean, at least definitely for you, James, and for more people probably that are listening to this, Fire Emblem is a big one. I mean, we've got Sacred Stones, Blazing Sword, Shadow Dragon all on there.
Yeah. I think I got those 3 on my Wii U, so I have those downloaded to it. So I can always go back to. I didn't finish either of them, but I can always go back to playing those if I want to, as long as my Wii U is alive.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm happy about that. But for anyone who realizes that they want to explore a franchise after this Switch has happened, or the Switch, no pun intended, it'll be too late. Like there won't be a way anymore. So that is sad in that way. But then again, like that's kind of how it's always been, I guess. So
It is. We are a little pampered by the times.
a bit.
But just speaking of Fire Emblem specifically, it's one of those series where, at least I felt like, you play one, and if you really like it, you're like, wow, I want more. So you have to go and find other ones. And they're not released frequently. I mean, maybe every 2 to 3 years. Who knows how long it will be.
It's usually about 2 to 3 years, yeah.
But still, let's say you got 3 houses, and right afterwards, you're just like, wow, I really want to play another one. Well, you're going to have to go buy a 3DS and play the 3 that were released on there. And that could fill your time,
not Revelations.
I imagine.
Exactly. I wanted to touch on Revelations, actually, because that one doesn't exist on physical copy, except for that, the special edition that had all 3 games, right?
And as a huge Fire Emblem fan, I can count on one hand the number of people I know who actually have that.
Yeah, it's incredibly rare.
Same. I don't have it.
No,
I wish I did.
I just got Conquest.
I tried to pre-order it, but I wasn't able to.
I got the physical
didn't make
copies of the Conquest and Birthright, but I don't have. Maybe I should download Revelation in case I ever want to play it in the future.
You really should.
I agree.
And I used $20.
Yeah, actually, I mean, I should do that tonight after we finish this recording, so I don't forget.
You love Fates, so
I love the characters. I'll say I wasn't crazy about the story, but I really like a lot of the characters.
Nobody's crazy about the story in Fates.
No. But I've heard Revelation is the best out of the 3 versions.
So that's debated. I agree. Well, I agree. Whoever you heard that from, I do think Revelation is the best, and I think, I wish Intelligent Systems would have had that be the one game, and not this branching or 3 different kind of Pokemon thing that they tried to do.
Definitely handled that a lot better.
I agree.
Right. Yeah, they learned from their mistake, I guess. With that.
But it's such a shame that the quote-unquote golden path is locked behind, being stuck on the eShop. And once it's gone, it's gone. And you'll never be able to get it back unless you've previously bought it.
For sure.
Yeah.
But returning to just some series, Metroid is another one of those series where you play one, you're like, wow, that was really quick, but I loved it. I would really like to play others. And right now on the Switch, you can't do that. You can only play Dread. There's not. Well, excuse me. You could play the. You're right. You can play those 2, and arguably you have the best, if not one of the best, Super Metroid. So if you haven't played that one yet, you need to go play that. But besides that, you don't have Fusion. You don't have Zero Mission. You don't have. The 3DS game, you can get it.
Although Prime is on the Wii U E-Shop, so we can count that.
Well, I mean, until it's gone.
Yeah, it's on the Wii U E-Shop for about another year.
Yeah. So this is the time. If you want to go to the Metroid series, admittedly, the Prime series is a different kind of genre, I'd say, although it does the transition well.
I still do love Prime, though.
I love Prime as well.
I think anyone who does enjoy the 2D Metroid games will find enjoyment out of those.
Yeah, I think they're really good. Like, obviously, like changing the perspective from like a side scroller to a first person is a like may seem jarring, but I think they really managed to pull off like very much the same style.
Yeah.
Regardless of that.
Even then, but also think about what's going to be the next Metroid game that they put on the Switch. Prime 4.
At least it should be. Hopefully.
Yeah.
By all accounts.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, you don't know when the next Metroid game is going to be, so it would be nice to go back and play some of those games that are admittedly pretty quick to play. Prime takes a while, but still, it's fun to go back to those games that have already been made, and they're not any less great. They're still amazing, maybe graphically outdated in some cases, and if that's a problem for you, you probably shouldn't be playing Nintendo games in general, but hey, that's fine. But anyway, Metroid is definitely one of those series that is going to take a big loss once the 3DS and Wii U eShops the virtual consoles are gone. We mentioned Pokemon earlier, just in passing, but on the 3DS, on the eShop, you have access to first and second gen. Something that was didn't exist before. You can't get that on Wii U or the Switch right now. Mm-hmm. So, I hope eventually Nintendo just gets Pokemon to move their butts and get them to port those games to the NSO somehow. But
I think more importantly than even that, Pokemon Bank.
So that will still be around. That'll still be around.
Well, you still won't be able to download it, even if you can use it.
Oh, I see. So okay, that's fair. Download that, but you'll still be able to use it.
Yeah, although it is free,
give or take.
Or at least it's free to download, and then come whatever date it's going to be free to use. So just make sure it's on your 3DS.
Yeah, I think I got it like since way back when it was brand new, and then I barely used it for a while.
Yeah,
but I guess
it's the kind of thing that you don't need to use constantly. Use it once or twice.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Yeah,
but it goes to your point. If you're just getting into Pokemon, you're a young kid, and then you go back to the 3DS games, which, to be honest, I don't know how many kids are gonna be doing that, but still, that access will not be there once the shop is gone. You're not gonna be able to get access to those games or the bank.
Dream Radar is another good one to mention as well. It's not as important as Bank, but
wait, what's Dream
Radar? I'm not
Radar?
familiar with that.
That was a. I actually need to go look it up because I know it's in my head and I have it on my 3DS, but I don't actually remember what it is.
Wait, could it be the app
it's
you used
to Black 2, White 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait.
Yeah.
Is it to transfer Pokemon from Gen 5 to Gen 6?
I think so.
Because that sounds familiar. I know there was an app that I used for that, or a feature that I used for that.
Honestly, I never transfer my Pokemon. Each new gen is just a fresh slate for me.
Oh, dude, I transferred Pokemon all the way from Gen 3 up to Gen 6, way back, during that.
Yeah, personally, I like playing through a new game with just the new Pokemon in there. But then after I've reached the post game, just bring everybody up. It's the family.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool that the option exists. You can transfer Pokemon between all the generations, except for between 2 and 3. There's like a block there.
Yeah, but that blockade ended up getting broken by Pokemon Home. Not Home, by Pokemon Bank. Because you can transfer from the Gen 1 and Gen 2 eShop games.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Into the bank.
That's fair. Except, the old cartridges are still stuck.
As far as
honestly, I don't see a
remember.
reason to go back and replay Gen 1 and Gen 2 when their remakes are just so much better.
But because there was this glitch in Pokemon Red and Blue, and I was able to pull it off perfectly too, where you could find and catch a level 7 Mew on the bridge above Cerulean City. I think it was. And I would do that every time I played through Pokemon Blue, since I loved Mew, so I would always have a Mew on my team, and I would be able to get it pretty early, like right before the second gym. And but sadly I could never bring it any further into later games. And I don't know if I don't know if that glitch is possible in the eShop versions. I never tried.
I've never tried it.
I got Pokemon Yellow, but I'm not sure if the glitch was doable in Pokemon Yellow. At least it's possible in Red and Blue. Anyway, yeah.
My glitch was the missing no glitch, and then being able to duplicate your Pokemon through the PC bank.
Oh,
Those are the glitches I.
At least as
love
of
to do.
2016, it looks like the Mew glitch worked. In Yellow as well as Red and Blue.
like speaking of the eShop versions.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So then you can get that Mew into Gen 8, 9, or well, not yet.
Yeah, it's like
8.
that's the only way to get Mew right now, isn't it? Have they added a new way to get Mew since?
There have been like
I
special
guess
events
Pokeball
from
Plus.
time to time, sometimes.
Yeah.
But like that would be
I
the
know-
only like certain way, I guess.
Yeah.
Huh.
Just like of all Pokemon, Mew is just impossible to get.
Yeah, I mean Celebi and like Jirachi, like all of those are kind
Yeah.
of difficult, right?
Event based, Like
Yeah.
you have to wait for the Pokemon company to say, "Hey, go to Toys R Us to get your
Right.
Mew."
You can get a Mew in Brilliant Diamond Shine. Can you get it in Brilliant Diamond Shine Pearl anymore?
Oh.
I don't know. It may still be there. I know I got one. I got a Jirachi too. It's
you
because
get those
it's
for
it's
having
basically your
the
save
game
data.
right? From,
Yeah.
The previous
Previous
games.
Pokemon games.
Oh.
Sword, Shield, and the Let's Go.
I see.
Yeah. But speaking to the point of just some games that we'll lose access to, obviously Virtual Console is an important part of history, and I'm not really happy completely with how Nintendo has handled the new version of Virtual Console with NSO. But even more so than well, maybe I won't say more so, but the other side of this, or another factor of this, is just losing some of these exclusive 3DS, Wii U games that probably are not going to end up coming over to the Switch or future consoles. For example, it's not a game I played, but I've heard so many people praise it, and I've wanted to pick it up, so I got to make sure I download it. Pocket Jock. Oh gosh, what was it? It's a game made by Game Freak. Pocket Jock Racer. I'm butchering the name here. Basically, it's a solitaire game, but you're a horse racer, and you make your horse go faster through solitaire.
Oh,
That sounds magnificent.
interesting.
I think it's Pocket Card Jockey. I'm looking it up.
Yes, I'm seeing that.
Ah.
Yeah, that's it.
I never heard of this.
Made by
title.
Game Freak, and I've heard only praise. You gotta kind of solitaire type games, but it's those little gems that you find on these shops that are exclusive to 3DS or, honestly, not so much Wii U, but that poor thing. But we're just not gonna have access to it because Nintendo's not gonna bother, or whoever developed those games are really not gonna bother to bringing them over.
I guess kind of going a ways back to something we talked about probably 10, 15 minutes ago. One more thing about the Virtual Console we kind of danced around a little bit. As much as I love the idea of Nintendo Switch Online, the list of games that we have and how often we get new games is just nothing compared to what was on the eShop in the Virtual Console.
You're right.
And I think a lot of this thing would be taken away if that were at all comparable. If we could still get those Metroid games, we could still get those Pokemon games, we could still get those Fire Emblem games, we could still get Super Mario Advance.
I think that's the flaw with this Netflix type model that Nintendo is using for NSO. You have access to all of these games for a monthly subscription price or annual, however you want to do it. But not other game publishers are not gonna get on board with that. And I think Miyamoto expressed his frustration. I can't remember what year it was, but he was talking about how in order to combat piracy, we need to come together as developers to accept these types of gaming libraries. And maybe he was actually talking to a lot of the Japanese developers because as you can see with Microsoft Game Pass, they're doing a pretty good job with that. But for some reason, at least from Miyamoto's point of view, he felt like the developers are not open to have their classic titles up on this NSO library. And that's why we see a lot of Square Enix games aren't on there, especially Super Nintendo ones. I mean, where's Final Fantasy VI? I don't think Chrono Trigger's on there.
I don't. No, it's not. I don't think Chrono Trigger's on Switch at all.
No, absolutely not. If it's not on NSO, it's not going to be on the Switch.
Right.
That's completely fair.
So, yeah, there's just flaws to the system where Nintendo can only provide so much, whereas with Virtual Console, I guess the sales of certain games would be, well, I'm not sure exactly how it would work. I'm not going to pretend like I understand all the economics of it all. But I'm certain that the publishers will be getting a share of the profit versus just selling the rights to Nintendo in order for them to put up their game on that library. So I don't know. It's a different beast, but it's one that right now is lackluster because of the lack of variety in terms of publishers.
Yeah. I really hope that that they won't stick to this throughout, well, forever. Like that this isn't going to be the new norm, that everything's going to be like just from now on. Because I really miss the Virtual Console idea. Like, because, well, with Nintendo Switch Online, for example, I already have a bunch of the games that interest me in that library. I already had them since before, and on top of that, there's several games that I'm really not interested in at all. So I feel like paying money for that, or at least extra money, I guess, is for the special things. It's not really worth it for me because I already have a bunch of them, and there's a bunch of them that I'm not interested in at all. So maybe I would get like one or two games that I might play. But that's about it. Obviously, I do have Switch Online because I want to be able to play online, but it's really not for the game library reason at all. I've never touched it, actually.
Here's a valid question for you two. Do either of you have the expansion pass?
I don't.
I do not, actually. I've debated it, and, being a person who covers Nintendo games, you'd think I would get it, but I just haven't been pushed to buy it yet.
Yeah, neither have I. I'm also, running a family plan, so it needs to be worth it for everyone. But
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No, I think I would much rather like go back and download a game I want to play on the 3DS or the Wii U. Like now that I still have the chance. Like I would much rather pay for a specific game as a one-time payment, and have that game, than to do this subscription thing, personally.
Yeah, and admittedly, there is some good stuff with the subscription. I mean, given the choice, I would never pay money specifically for River City Ransom, but I had it on NES Online. So one of my friends and I decided one day, hey, let's jump on and see what this game's about. And it was a lot of fun.
Okay, that's cool.
So there definitely is a chance for that. But when the only thing that's really on there I guess I can't say the only thing that's on there is heavy hitters. But
well, yeah, there's definitely some, where did this come from? Type of
so
thing.
There is some merit. There is some bonus you get from this.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's a give and take.
Fair.
And I understand where Pear's coming from, wanting to own your copy, and not having to, not really. That's not what you're saying. You're saying you get to choose what you play, and you don't have to worry about other games that you don't really want to pay money for.
Right. Basically, I have on the Virtual Console. I have a wider option. I have more options to choose between, and I pay one time, and I have whatever specifically that I want. That's what I really do prefer personally. Although I see the appeal with the library as well.
Yeah, I definitely think the bigger library over there is the real selling point, and given the choice, I probably would prefer that as well. But we don't have the choice, so
yeah.
From what I understand, this is just me listening to people who consider themselves industry insiders, IGN and whatnot. They firmly believe Nintendo was losing money, or maybe not just Nintendo, but publishers in general were losing money on the Virtual Console. Well, I guess, it would have been Nintendo. Because people weren't really buying the individual games. Yeah, there'd be buzz around a new release, but how many people are actually going back and buying those games. Not a whole lot, but with the Nintendo Switch Online, you kind of basically force people, if they want to play online or if they want to play a certain game, they have to get into the subscription. Overall, it's cheaper than buying all the individual games that are on the NSO until maybe a couple years pass. Then maybe we'll catch up.
Fair, yeah.
But still, by kind of forcing the consumer to get into this plan, Nintendo is actually making probably more money than they would have just with a virtual console.
Yeah, that gives them an actual reason to release these games.
Yeah, I like you guys were saying, it comes down to the library size. We don't even have GameCube games. Well, we never have GameCube games with Virtual Console, but Game Boy Advance games, Game Boy games. Like, we're missing a lot of titles that should be on the NSO at this point, 5 years into the Switch life, and yet they're not there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, it's a problem. There's no clear answer for it other than Nintendo actually doing things that make sense, which clearly isn't going to happen, so...
Yeah, when have they ever?
One other thing I'll say is Nintendo's mentality right now, and maybe a few other Japanese companies share the same mentality, is we release new games constantly. We want our fans to focus on those games versus our past games. It's all about the new, and we want to get the profits off of that. If they're playing the old games, they're not going to want to play the new games. I disagree with that. I think people can easily juggle their time, or especially if they're into a series, play the new ones, but also go back to the previous, and in theory, you should be making more money that way.
Right.
But for some reason, their mentality has always been, we want to focus on our new titles and really not create too much buzz about the older ones.
Yeah, for a company like, say, Sony, I understand that. But for Nintendo, which relies so heavily on nostalgia and on these, like, classic franchises, some of those classic franchises in all video games.
Yeah.
I mean, I could say I probably wouldn't have spent the $60 on Metroid Dread if I hadn't, gotten to pay less than that and been able to check out Zero Mission and Super Metroid and all of that beforehand.
Totally. Plus, I feel like a lot of some of the games really pay homage to the old games, and if you don't understand the references, then it all kind of flies over your head. Like Super Smash Bros. Does that a lot, as well as I mean several other games too, like Mario, Kiddicker is Zelda, absolutely. So it's like it's just such a shame to see all of so many of these experiences kind of just disappear now. That's
a great point. And to be fair to Nintendo, they, like you're saying, they do pay homage to a lot of their retro titles and whatnot. Like, I don't want to give the bad rep that they don't care about the history whatsoever, but I don't think we can argue with the fact that they are trying to push their new titles. And I think there is that worry that, if they play their older games, they're not going to want to focus on the new stuff, which is absolutely bonkers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But anyway, you look at Sega. Sega, while they don't always have every single title that they made at your fingertips, as of late they've kind of branched on, especially with Sonic. I feel like the kind of retro mentality and embrace that kind of side of their fan base, while also releasing new games to various critical success and failures. But
very similar comparison. I would like to point out that Square Enix has been doing a lot better with this lately too.
You're right.
Obviously, we still don't have Chrono Trigger, but we're getting Chrono Cross. Yeah. They remade the first 6 Final Fantasy games. They're bringing over a bunch of Dragon Quest. They've really been doing good.
Yeah.
And Nintendo just still isn't at that level.
Yeah, not quite. I mean, to be fair, there are some great classic games on NSO, but it's just not enough for what it should be.
Firmly agree.
Mm-hmm.
So moving on from there, this is going to be a bit less of a discussion segment, I guess, but are you guys going to be buying anything else between now and May? Are you going to be dumping any more money into that eShop? Or are you happy with what you have?
No, as I mentioned at the beginning, I think I'm gonna go ahead and buy Fire Emblem Fates Revelation just to make sure I have it in case I need it later. Because I think I might return to the Fates games eventually. Because I played all the way through Birthright, but I didn't finish Conquest. But I think I'm going to want to do that at some point. And after that, I'm sure I'm going to want to play Revelation too. So I'm going to get that at least.
You should really play Three Houses or, Echoes or something.
I have Echoes. I need to play that too.
Echoes is so good.
And I got it.
So
And I will buy Three Houses and play it eventually at some point. I have such a backlog, and so like the past couple years, I haven't been buying a whole lot of games just because I've been wanting to close the gap with my backlog, kind of. But it is on my to buy list of Three Houses. Yep.
Yeah.
So
for me, I'll let you go first. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So for me, it's hard because I'm one of those people who I am playing a lot of new releases, and I find it hard to go back to some of my backlogs or even games that I've already played. It's kind of hard for me. Not because I don't enjoy it, but it's that hump. It's like, well, when I play a game, I want to finish it all the way. I don't want to just, halfway do it. But I also want to stay on the ball and make sure I'm playing the new games so that I can cover on YouTube or just talk with my friends about it and whatnot. It's all my personal preferences and problems, but it makes it hard for me to want to go and play some of the retro classics. However, if I were to go back and I just had like all the free time in the world and was given that opportunity, or I made that opportunity, I would buy the Metroid games that are available. I believe on the Wii U is where they're available. Maybe
Probably.
It's on 3DS as well.
A couple of them are on 3DS, but mostly Wii U.
Yeah, so I'd get those, Zero Mission and Fusion, and then I would also get the Fire Emblem games because being a huge Fire Emblem game, I still feel bad that I haven't played Sacred Stones or the first Fire Emblem game that was localized here. Was it Blazing Blade or Binding Blade?
Correct.
Blazing Blade. Okay.
Both of those are fantastic games.
That's what I've heard, and so I really want to play them eventually. So I was kind of hoping they'd come to the Switch, but we need Game Boy Advance first. So, I'm also hoping for remakes, but that's beside the point. I do want to go and pick those up eventually.
Yeah.
So I got to do that soon, I guess.
For me, I've got a couple games on there that I still need to get. I don't have any of the DLC for Fates or Awakening. So.
The DLC. Yeah.
DLC is a big one for this. Like, Smash Bros. Had DLC, Fire Emblem had DLC.
True.
I'm sure there was more games with DLC.
I mean, Breath of the
those are the
Wild,
big
if you
ones.
play it on the Wii U.
Yeah, but you can get that on the Switch, so it's
Yeah.
not really as big of a jump.
No, you're right.
The other ones I'm considering grabbing, and I'm actually been going back and forth on whether or not I need to buy myself a Wii U in the next couple of months.
Oh.
Specifically because I have never gotten a chance to play the Zelda HD Remakes. Twilight Princess. and
Oh,
Wind Waker.
really?
Oh,
man.
okay.
I've never had a Wii U.
That's right. Oh.
It kills me because I love these games growing up.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's
Nice.
any downloadable besides just getting them
I don't think there
download,
is.
but I don't. So I guess you're safe if you can buy a physical version, but who knows if I don't know if the prices have gone up on those.
They probably have.
I have no clue.
Yeah,
I mean,
don't
here's
know
hoping
what
they
they're
eventually port them to the Switch, but
You'd think they would by this point.
Nintendo's good at
5
Nintendo.
years. Yeah, they really will. And the other game off the Wii U that I've really considered buying really hard is Xenoblade Chronicles X.
Yeah, and that's actually one that if you're gonna get it, you need to get it within a year because there is a patch that you have to download that basically makes the game playable.
I've heard.
So yeah, that's definitely one for someone who just like, oh, I'm gonna go buy a Wii U and get a copy of Xenoblade Chronicles X. Well, you're not gonna be able to play it.
You're out of luck, kid.
Wow.
That's another one I hope they port, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I will say real quick, since we were talking about the Zelda games on the Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD remakes, I feel pretty confident that they will come to the Switch at some point eventually.
I've been telling myself that for 5 years.
Fair. Yeah.
I think it comes down to what Nintendo is releasing in terms of Zelda games. Since we have Breath of the Wild 2 coming out relatively soon, it's probably not going to be until maybe a year out.
Yeah.
After that one.
Yeah.
But we shall see.
But still, yeah. After Breath of the Wild 2 at some point, I feel pretty confident. And plus, I think it would be pretty cool, especially if they would re-release Twilight Princess that way, because then Twilight Princess would have existed on 4 Nintendo systems in a row. The Wii,
Let's
Wii U,
go.
or sorry, the GameCube, the Wii U, and the Switch.
We stand that game. Great game.
It's great, although I prefer Wind Waker. I mean, I want to see both of them on the Switch. I have them both on the Wii U, so I can't always go back there. But it's nice to have them on the Switch.
Very small tangent. So I made a video, Wind Waker versus Twilight Princess, for fun, and it was good, comparing the two and whatnot. Recently, like just a couple of weeks ago, I got a comment from some guy. It's like, yeah, I just played Wind Waker for the first time. It was terrible. Oh my gosh. Learn how to design a game, Aonuma.
What?
And he just goes on and on, just lists all the terrible things. His biggest gripe was the sea, which I do kind of share, not to his extent, but he kept going on how empty it was and how the dungeons were terrible and whatnot. And I don't really agree with a lot of what he was saying. And then but he said, I haven't played Twilight Princess yet, but I tell you one thing, Wind Waker is a terrible game. It's like, whoa.
How dare.
And so I messaged him, it's like, wow, I don't share your opinions, as you clearly see in the video, but, to each their own. I'm kind of worried what you think about Twilight Princess now. And then he commented later and said, yeah, I played Twilight Princess. It's not great, but, it's not as bad as Wind Waker. Oh, my gosh. He really did not like Wind Waker. So I felt bad. I was like, oh,
wow,
man. I'm glad, this is after the initial buzz of the video, so people weren't like gonna read his comment, because otherwise people really would have been upset, I think.
I see. Wow.
Anyway, sorry, that was a small tangent.
Yeah, I guess this kind of brings us into the other question of what are some other games that you would suggest people buy? Like if you're going to choose 3 games off the 3DS and Wii U for people to pick up. Like even if they're ones that you have or ones that you may not necessarily be interested in yourself.
Right.
So I guess I jumped the gun on one, but Pocket Card Jockey, that's one I haven't played, but I know is a gem that people consider, so I want to pick that up myself. So I recommend that. My favorite game from 2018 was a port, funny enough, of a DS game to the 3DS. It's called Radiant Historia, Perfect Chronology. And I adore that game so much, from the combat system to the story to the time traveling. It's incredible. The music, oh my gosh, makes me cry thinking about it.
Oh.
But it was such a powerful game for me on my 3DS. Originally on the DS, and getting a copy of that one is probably not easy. But even getting a physical copy of the 3DS is not great. I think it's like $100 or something like that.
Actually,
so
I've never played Perfect Historia or Perfect Chronicle. I already forget what it's called.
Radiant
I have
Historia.
played the original Radiant. No, I haven't played the 3DS version. I own the original Radiant Historia.
Oh, good.
And I will confirm it is a fantastic game. One of the best JRPGs on the system.
Absolutely.
But while we're at it, that game was made by Atlas, who also put a ton of Shin Megami Tensei games onto the 3DS.
You're right.
They're super expensive. Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse.
Yeah.
Devil Summoner, which is just going to be getting a sequel sometime soon.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just saying some consider Shin Megami Tensei 4 to be the best in the series of the the mainline Shin Megami Tensei. So got to pick that one up.
Yeah, that's another one that's on my list. I haven't gotten it yet, but I've been meaning to. But those are games that are already super expensive to buy them physically. And I can't even imagine how expensive they're going to be after the eShop is gone.
Huh.
You're right. Yeah.
Wow.
And then, obviously, Pokemon games, just all the Pokemon games in general, especially the DS ones. Gosh, they're so expensive. I remember just like 10 years ago, you could go to a GameStop and you would find like the little card games. maybe they'd be like 30, $40, but nothing bad. But now they've just shot up in price. It's insane.
And
So
those are
if
always
you-
some of the best-selling games on the console. I don't
Right.
get it.
It boggles my mind how we could be losing, like that, how we don't have enough stock of those games. Like surely they're
I mean,
out there.
I will say my favorite Pokemon games are the ones from the DS era. Like
Yeah.
Gen 4 and 5 are the best generations in Pokemon in my opinion. Both in terms
Really
of
good.
like the Pokemon that existed kind of, but also like the games themselves. So I mean I would understand why they would be popular and like attractive.
Well,
on
of
the market.
course, it's not like why it's more. There should have been so many copies out in the wild. Like, why are they so expensive at this point? You know
Oh,
what I
yeah,
mean?
gotcha.
Yeah.
I guess new fans come into the fan base and less copies. So I guess I understand, but it's just a shame that it's hard for people who are new to the series to go play these classic games. Thankfully, we have a way to play Gen 4 now. To
Okay.
I guess
Yeah.
it depends on how you feel on the remakes, but
They certainly do the job. They're not
I think
bad.
they do the I think they do the job, and I consider Legends Arceus to be a reimagining of Gen 4 in a way as well.
That's
but,
fair.
That's besides the point. But Gen 5, we're not gonna get a remake of that for a while, so that's just a whole part of Pokemon history that just is not gonna be possible. I don't know. Was there a way to download the game through the eShop beforehand? Do you know?
Don't know. I
I
don't
think there was because wait, which game in particular are we talking about again?
No, Gen 5, Black and White.
I don't think so because those were DS games.
Okay, so that wasn't possible.
Oh, that does make me think about it though. DSiWare.
know. Oh yeah.
Well, yeah.
That is about to die. And while the best DSiWare game has been gone for a long time, that being Four Swords,
Yes.
there's still a lot of good stuff on there.
Yeah.
Just glancing through it now. Mario vs. Donkey Kong had a game on there. Dragon Quest Wars, which I just picked up recently. Cave Story is on DSi, even though you can buy that in a ton of other places now. And you absolutely should. Actually, I take it back. There's a lot of stupid stuff on here. But there's Dr. Mario Express.
Oh
You
wow.
like Dr. Mario.
I've never met anyone who's like, I love Dr. Mario. I never have.
And they have to exist, right?
I maybe.
And generally, I find those people are, no, and I'm not trying to stereotype here, but usually they're like in their 40s, maybe pushing their 50s. They're a little older.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, I would definitely suggest looking through the DSiWare games and just seeing if there's anything that catches your interest. They're all super cheap. So by all means, just take a look. These games were never released physically unless they were released elsewhere. So just look around.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Four Swords, I do have a big soft spot for Triforce Heroes on the 3DS, and
Agree to disagree, but
that
that's a good point.
that is one of the games that. Well, actually, are they gonna turn off entire like online gameplay on the 3DS?
I don't know.
With this,
I would imagine they would.
because that will make that game
thought so.
way less accessible, I guess. Not only in terms of
well-
getting your hands on it, but also just
Playing it.
with friends. I mean, you'll still be able to play it wirelessly, like locally, I'm sure. But if you
Okay,
only
so-
play with online friends, then that kind of won't be possible, I suppose.
So the eShop is officially, obviously, next year. But according to some sources, the service shutdown for the platforms may arrive in a couple of years after that. So
Gotcha.
it's not necessarily in stone when it's happening, but eventually it's going to happen.
Right, yeah, as should be expected. But it's good to know that it will be around for, I guess, a little longer at least than the eShop.
Yeah.
But yeah, like for me, Triforce Heroes is one of those games that I have had so much fun with. I will still play it locally even after a couple of years have passed and the online is completely down. I will still play it, or at least try to find friends to play it with locally, because I do have some friends, or I do know some friends who have it that live nearby. But yeah, I know it's
I
a
guess
pretty critically dubious game, but I personally love it.
If we want to talk about that, I would suggest talking about the vastly superior game, A Link Between Worlds.
Yes.
Which is actually a fantastic Zelda game. I think all of us will agree on that, right?
100%.
Yeah, very good.
Definitely suggested for any Zelda fans out there or people who want to get into 2D Zelda.
Yeah, it's my favorite 2D Zelda game, I will say, hands down.
That is completely valid, actually.
So, another series that I think becomes kind of lost, although there might be other ways to get it digitally, maybe mobile, I'm not entirely sure, but the Ace Attorney series, there's a couple games, I believe 5 and 6 are... well, maybe it's just 6 is digital only, at least outside of Japan. So it's, and even if it was a physical, they're impossible to find. So I think that's just kind of lost now. Once this shop is gone, you won't be able to get that part of the story. I mean, granted, we're all waiting for, at least I'm waiting as an Ace Attorney fan, waiting for the next game to be announced. Great Ace Attorney was phenomenal, by the way. Go play that if you're an Ace Attorney fan. But yeah, it's just, if you wanted to play through all the series and get that part of the story, you're kind of up a tree without, or up a creek without a paddle. I was about to say up a tree without a paddle.
Another game that I think is important to mention, not because of the gameplay, because I kind of hate this game, but Pokemon Picross. Terrible energy system, terrible monetization. But if you want to hack a 3DS, that game is the easiest way to do it.
Oh.
I don't know exactly how to do it. I have never hacked a 3DS. I intend on doing it at some point. But from what I've heard, that's the way.
Oh. Okay.
Interesting.
I don't really know what all this means, exactly.
I don't know how you hack a 3DS through a Picross game.
I don't remember exactly. I think it leaves some back door open to the coding.
That's hilarious.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I would also like to mention this channel does not officially condone piracy.
You had to say that.
I did.
Emulation's up for debate,
Yeah.
Modding and whatnot,
Yeah, I think modding is generally acceptable.
Yeah.
I'm going to hold my tongue before I get myself in trouble with Nintendo. But I don't think either of you two would be too surprised to hear anything I would have to say.
No.
Understandable.
The second game that I'll mention real quick is the Fire Emblem game that got me into Fire Emblem, and I think a lot of people, Fire Emblem Awakening, which is going to, it's going to become harder to get your hands on now, and I mean, I don't know, with that game, I don't expect there to be, compared to some other games perhaps, there might not be an abundance of copies going around out there, compared to Pokemon games perhaps, or Zelda games. I remember I had a little bit of a hard time getting my hands on that game back when I got it back in 2014 or something like that. Obviously nowhere near, I had nowhere near as hard of a time finding it as people will in the future, of course. But still, that is a game that, it'll be sad to see that gaining that status, I guess, because it is one of my favorite games ever.
Yeah.
From what I see, it seems like it goes for $50 right now.
I think that's about what I got it for when I finally bought it in the Switch era.
Gotcha.
So, it's not too bad right now, but who knows? Later down the line,
right?
Yeah, that maybe. Well, I don't think it'd ever get as bad as Radiant Dawn or
Path of Radiance.
Path of Radiance.
Well, maybe, or like, yeah. Although, who's
will
to
say.
say?
I think it's
might,
because both
but-
of those copies did not sell very well compared to Awakening, which
Yeah.
sold like
Ah.
bananas.
Okay,
you know?
okay,
And
that's
plus,
fair.
GameCube games.
Yeah.
But as a big Fire Emblem fan, one thing that we will be losing from that game is the DLC, which kills me.
Oh yeah.
Because
Yeah.
there's so much classic Fire Emblem in that DLC. So many, like,
Yeah.
it's the only you can play as Eldigan. You can take on Chrom into your party. Not Chrom. Of course you can. Take
Wow,
Mark.
Chrom in
Mark.
Awakening.
That's the bit. I got that for free. Did you know that? Well, I had to pay for a game, but we talked about Fates being the same way, but Shadows of Valentia is same thing.
Best
There's
Fire Emblem game in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. There's DLC downloadable content with that as well, and you get some good story and characters from that DLC.
Yeah. I mean, it's the only official thing from Fire Emblem Cypher that made it over to the West.
You're
One
right.
of those characters.
So yeah, it's a shame to see those gone. It makes you wish you could have just a recent example. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 had the Torna expansion, but that also came with a physical edition if you wanted to go and buy that. So you can get all the DLC without having to download it, which is really nice. But a lot of games don't do that for obvious reasons, because how you're probably going to take a loss in some cases if you're making physical copies of everything you do. But still, it gets to a point where you see instances like this where you're going to be losing out on some DLC content, and valuable DLC content at that. And to me, it makes me more, I guess, wary of an all digital future that some people want to push.
I think at this point I've covered most of the games I want to talk about.
Cool.
I think I did
How
as
do you
well.
do?
I have my last one then.
By all means.
It is my second favorite video game of all time, and it's
Whoa.
hands down my favorite 3DS game that was ever made. Kidicker's Uprising.
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
It's such
Yeah.
a beautiful and charming game. To be fair, I don't hear a lot of people talking about it these days, really.
Really?
I mean, maybe I'm not in the right circles. I just don't see discussions about it much around.
I mean, yeah, the
Right now.
fandom's not huge. I'll give you that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
and
it's
I was
awesome
never
game,
really
yes.
invested in the fandom, even though I absolutely adore the game. But yeah, seeing that go or becoming increasingly harder to come by is going to be a bit sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's already like $90 in some places.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Talk about games that are really hard to port. That would
Yeah,
be tough.
absolutely.
Yeah, right. I mean, I don't necessarily. I'm not going to ask for a port of or like a re-release of that game or anything like that. What I really want, however, is a sequel to that game that's like kind of in the same vein, kind of similar gameplay, just kind of continuing doing what Uprising did, but on the Switch. Like, I would love a sequel to that.
Absolutely.
Like, I've been wanting that ever
Totally
since I
fair.
played it back in 2012. Like, it's such a good and unique and funny and great game.
We still don't know what Sakurai's doing next, so
Yeah. Oh my god. If that's his next project, I would like cry. I would cry out of joy.
But we'll see. That man can do whatever he wants.
He can. Absolutely, he can. I'm not keeping my hopes up. Or like my expectations aren't high,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
but I can dream.
Dream on, better.
Yes.
Dream on.
And with that, I think we're going to end this. So thank both of you for coming on the show. It's been a ton of fun having you.
Thank you. It's been good being haved. and we look forward to having you guests on Umami Manga, our manga podcast that we mentioned at the beginning. I don't know. Should we mention quickly what our intention, like what we intend to talk with you about there, or should we keep that a secret?
I say let's keep it a secret.
Sounds good. But yes, in the future, this year. Hopefully not in too much of a distant future. We will have Chase on our show. So if you like following Chase around, then follow him over there at some point soon.
Yeah. And then James also has another channel. He is the leader. I don't know what the it's only you. Nintensity. He does.
It's only me.
Nintensity.
He is the in intensity. That's James.
I am the Nintendo.
I was trying to
I'm the
think
creator.
of like a fancy word, but like
There is
I
a
couldn't
deep
think
and
of a good
interesting history behind intensity, but I will not bore you with those details. Or maybe fascinate you with those details. Either way, no, it's come visit me on Intensity. I talk about Fire Emblem, Xenoblade, Zelda,
Yeah. I mean,
a lot of
if you're
Switch
on my
games.
Channel, you love Nintendo. He does
I
Nintendo.
love Nintendo.
He makes great content.
Yes.
And I just want to say it's great being able to talk to you again, Chase, and just like kind of how we used to do on the podcast that we had before. It's
been
good
a long
times.
time since I've really gotten to sit down with you guys. So
yeah,
Absolutely.
it's been great. I had a blast talking about these things today.
yeah. With that, thank you everybody for coming. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe to this video and also to their other channels. And I will see all of you next time. Goodbye.
Bye bye.
See you later.